So we've been publishing quite a few newsletters on the SWOT, and this question is about that. How do we go about a full SWOT, all stakeholders? I don't want to just ask questions to start with. Should I be broad in questions or narrow and focused? So I think it's important to think about your stakeholders almost in concentric circles. So you have your customers and your partners, and then you have your staff, you have your executive team, and you have your board if you have a board. And I think the way in which you engage those different stakeholder groups depends on, and the size of them, quite honestly, depends on the type of questions that you ask. And so one of the things we've been talking a lot about lately is that the information that you're gathering from your stakeholder group needs to be central to the strategic questions and the strategic shifts that you are trying to figure out, and not just be an off-the-shelf set of questions about, what should the goals be, and what do you think about the mission, that type of stuff. So while we need those answers, we also need to get feedback on what I would call those central strategic issues. That is why you're embarking on your plan in the first place. But Elsa, you're knee-deep on this stuff too, so what's your perspective?
When they do have that type of focus, it's easier to put it together. When it's very broad, again, a SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So for those of you that haven't dealt with a SWOT, what is it, first of all? We want to identify what those core competencies are within our organization. So if we're dealing with some very strategic issues, some problems that our company is facing with, what are those strengths, those core competencies that will help us mitigate or tackle those strategic issues that we're dealing with? So pull those out, focus on those energies. And then weaknesses, what are those, maybe those areas that we need to really improve on, shore up, strengthen, so that we are able to tackle those key strategic issues that we are having to face or that we're facing. And then the opportunities, what is it out there that we can capitalize on? And those are opportunities and threats are external to our organization. So ask those questions, again, that pertain to those strategic issues that we're facing, and what are the opportunities out external to our company that we can capitalize on that, again, will help us maybe mitigate or take advantage of while addressing those key issues. And then again, the threats. What are those key areas, those issues that we're facing, and what do we need to do in order to mitigate them? All of these areas convert to goals, but again, just as Erica said, what are those key issues that we're battling right now? One question that gets tossed around a lot amongst us to our customers, our clients, is, what keeps you up at night? And so a SWOT really needs to respond to that in those four categories. If you're trying to keep the focus very narrow, again, if you're doing a broad base for your company, then you really need to evaluate all of the elements in each of those four quadrants. What is it that are those core competencies? What are the things that we really need to work on to improve so that we can be positioned well to tackle those strategic issues? And then what are those things we really want to capitalize on that's out there? If those issues are out there, there must be some other opportunities that we can also focus on. So your thoughts, Erica, anything that I've missed?
No, I think that was super comprehensive, and I think the point would be that on the gathering of the information in order to populate your SWOT should be based on how you want, the level and depth that you're hoping to go to, as Elsa just mentioned, in the different areas of the organization. And of course, we're using the SWOT framework to help us put them in buckets, quite honestly. And what we like to do is we like to do a combination of open-ended questions and quantitative questions, of course. And I do think there's different questions to ask different people in the organization based on, where they sit and what their perspective is. So great question. I think it's it's part of the process that can be a little bit, this is the part of the process that can blow up really big if you're not careful. You're opening up the funnel for a ton of information. And so being super mindful about that as well is important, and sort of, I guess, blocking out the time to process it all. Yeah, it needs to be warranted, and that's why I think one of our longer segments in our planning process, going back to the beginning question, is around stakeholder feedback and then processing that into the SWOT.